Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we are breaking down our top five picks for the five best and one worst level 8 wizard spells. We're
Oh yeah,
we're getting up there. The
this
the
is the top, almost the top of the
penultimate
top.
penultimate level.
Yeah.
Um,
Like with all the other upper tier spells, I'm gonna preface it by saying I haven't played with most of these. This is getting to the tier where we're looking at the magic that I've seen cast single digit times or less. So uh, take our opinions with a grain of salt because these things are wacky and powerful and will likely vary table to table and have a bunch of different implications based off of magic weapons and based off of how your game is run up into the point where you get them. So
and as always, I will preface this by saying my picks are top five generally, no in no particular order. Sam orders his. I don't want that kind of responsibility.
too much responsibility. I understand. I'll
All
take
right.
that burden on myself.
All right. Do you want to start or shall I?
You start this time, Bob.
All right. Well, I'll start with one I'm pretty sure both of us have.
Mhm.
Oops, that's where, there it is. All right. Did Dominate Monster make your list?
It's my number one.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's on my list as well.
Yeah, Dominant Monster is not fair. It's really, really good. It's you. It's like better summoning magic in that you kill a thing functionally and then take control of that thing. So it's no longer on their team and now it's on your team and you can just tell it to do things and it'll follow those course of actions. And that's really powerful. You can take precise control of it, which is a fun little gimmick where you can say, well, if I give a general command, it still might not want to obey me, so it might go kill your friend and they might do it without much conviction. Instead, you can be like, no, I'm gonna take control of that giant aboleth right now and have it wreak havoc on its minions. That sounds more fun. It's super spicy. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm always a sucker for these kinds of things, or any kind of effect like this in a video game where you take an enemy and turn it against its own team. I'm thinking mostly to do with the old real-time strategy computer games
Oh yeah,
sort of things. Yeah. So yeah, this for that reason, this had to make my list.
it's big, it's powerful, it's impactful. If you compare it to banishment and stuff, this is banishment plus a summon spell stapled together, and it does both those concentration effects that you want, and that's pretty baller. And like you said, the fantasy of taking the ogre and being like, hey, actually, I need you to smash your other ogre friends, and it going, okay, boss, and just turning around and clubbing them over the head. I don't know, that's really fun to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have like a balanced fight set up, this just knocks the balance all out of whack. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. It
yeah,
it can
go
it'll
ahead.
take a fight that was built around being one big set piece monster or a pair of set piece monsters and being actually it's half as powerful now, and now you have the scarier of the two on your team. Granted, it is like a saber die. There's only going to be a few rounds of it being destructive, but you don't need more than a few rounds, especially seeing as
Hope not.
yeah, you're getting its actions, you're getting your actions. It seems busted. Seems real good.
All right. All that. What else you got?
Okay, that was my number one, so I'll just go top to bottom. My number two is anti-magic field.
Let's see. Do I have that? I do
I,
not.
I love anti-magic field.
I remember talking about it with you, and yeah, it is really cool. So let me make sure. All right, yeah, I like my picks for the most part. There's one that might have been replaceable.
Fair. I like anti-magic field because it's symmetrical, because you can't cast it in it either, but it does just say no to 100% of magic. If it's I think it literally is short of deities, this thing just says, nah, not today. I don't want that happening. So things can't fireball you, things can't power word kill you, things can't feeble mind you, things can't do a whole bunch of other high level nonsense magical effects that can be a real pain in the ass in the upper levels. And that just turns them all off. Magic items are now just mundane items, no problem at all. I think it's a really neat puzzle. I really like the idea of going around and trying to figure out when to really make this thing particularly powerful. I like the idea of anti-magic fields being something that you can use as a DM to mitigate and challenge certain aspects of the game, even in the upper tiers. The whole of its existence, I think, is really important to the game. And I also think it's something that, if you can get on top of the lich and just stick them at an anti-magic field, they're a pile of bones that are really angry for the next 10 minutes or hour. And that seems really powerful. Just to be like, yeah, the big bad, all of your abilities are offline, and now you are an 80 hit point skeleton with an AC of 13. Like that
Yeah,
seems pretty good.
yeah, oh, sure. Yeah, it's the right tool for certain times. It's
Mhm.
and it, like you said, it's a little puzzle, a little chess game. When to use it? When is it? Sometimes it's not beneficial to use because the magic doesn't work for you either. But it's, when it's used correctly, it's powerful.
Agreed.
When it's used incorrectly, or not incorrectly, but at inopportune times, it's still fun.
Sure. A lot of the look of it is really fun to me. Like I love walking next to the zombies and having them just collapse to the ground dead for like the 5 seconds while you walk past them, and then them just springing back up, or like a horde of zombies running at you and just piling into regular corpses. That's really fun imagery. A lot of the just like this suddenly stops being magical and becomes mundane all of a sudden. That's really cute. Like, oh, someone got enlarged and it runs at you and it just shrinks. Then it leaves again and enlarges again. That's super cool. I don't know. I like this spell a lot. I probably overrate it,
Sure.
but I like it a lot.
Eh, I don't think so. Well, let's see. Here's one I'm not super sure about that made my list, and I don't really know why. I wrote this list a while ago. Demiplane.
Demiplane. That's a nifty little spell. I don't know how good it is.
Yeah, I'm looking over it right now.
So you make a 30-foot room, right?
Yeah.
Basically. And then you can just you can go to that demiplane whenever you want by casting demiplane again. Or you can create more demiplanes.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's where it gets complicated.
Yeah.
But I just like the convenience of it. Having your little own storage unit that you can pull up anytime, anywhere. It's like the cloud for
Your
things.
stuff.
Yeah.
This is like Secret Chest if Secret Chest didn't have a 10% chance to explode.
And it's a 30-foot room instead of a
Yes.
box.
Instead of a box. I also think there's a lot of fun world building potential with this. While I don't think it may be that objectively powerful of a spell, there's I think a good amount of fun to be had as a DM just to be like the villains constructing their own world 30-foot boxes at a time, right? Like they're making a perfect utopia in their mind, just in this sprawling giant evil space. I think that's super nifty. I love all of the ideas of the players on some kind of wild adventure get stuck in a demiplane and they have to find their way out of this maze demiplane or something like that. And this spell kind of lets you do those kinds of stuff. It doesn't I wish you could I wish it included a little bit more rules about being able to construct your own demiplanes or create more fun things in them. I would love if this actually gave you the ability to be you create foliage, you create water, you create running sources, you can create nature and life and stuff. That'd be really cool.
Can
As
you
is though,
not do that?
I mean, not easily. This gives you a 30-foot box.
Yeah. You can decorate it.
Yeah, sure. You can bring in stuff to your 30-foot box, absolutely. But it doesn't even necessarily. Oh, it does say you can connect it up. You can make it be yeah, this is just a series of hallways and doors, and that's neat. I don't know. I think this would benefit from a more robust spell description. But where it is now, I think it's at least very fun. It's
I
very
mean, I
flavorful.
like that it gives you the freedom to do what you want with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it made my list specifically as a storage unit that you can pull up anytime.
It really comes back around
Take a
to
long rest in,
sure.
or it could be a prison.
It could be.
Shove someone on a demiplane.
Yeah, as long as I think what's neat is you just need to because while it says it's the duration of an hour, that's just the door, and then the door goes away. So you just have to basically knock someone out, throw them in there, and then as long as they don't wake up within the next hour, they're just stuck there until you cast it again to go get them.
They're stuck there whether they wake up or not.
That's true because you can lock the door and all that fun stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you get rid of the door, they're just in a box, right?
Yep. There's just an extra planar box. You can just put people in there. That's pretty nifty. Can you hold on? Let me just check again. Can you manually make the door go away?
I don't know. I would imagine so. Let's see.
Riveting content. Reading the spell description.
Yeah. When the spell ends, the door disappears. So...
Yeah. But it doesn't. You don't have a way to end it earlier.
It's not concentration. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess you just gotta. You do have to knock them out or restrain them or something.
I wonder what happens if you dispel magic the door.
Well, then I would imagine that ends the spell.
But does it break the demiplane?
Yeah, but man, all these pain in the ass concentration spells, and this is one where that would benefit from it.
Mhm.
All right, what else you got?
Regardless, it's very nifty. My number 3 after Anti-Magic Field is a spell that I think I've never ever seen cast, but at the same time I'm like, this has to be good. It's Illusory Dragon.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that made my list.
yeah. So this is a Xanathar got everything little ditty, and it gives you the Frightful Presence Big Dragon that then you can use as a bonus action to move about and exhale the 76 damage cone every turn. And then as things realize that it's not real, they get like advantage on the saves. But for the most part, it's gonna be like a bonus action D6 cone around. I don't think this is better than the spell we talked about last week, but the 8th level spells, in all honesty, kind of dookie. They're like not that much better than the 7th level, and it's not really even that close. Like I think there are some 7th level spells that I'm like, these are definitely better than this. But this is at minimum a giant angry dragon that's going to scare a bunch of things and is going to create a bunch of cones of death that are good for you. And you like doing cones of death that are good for you. That's a pretty good effect to have at will. So like, and on
Especially
its
as
bonus
a
action.
bonus action, right?
Yeah. It's very, very usable. I think this is perfectly fine. And I think especially if you're like going for the character, like the top end illusionist fantasy, it's nice that there's a damaging illusionist spell and a giant illusory dragon doing real damage. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, no argument here. That's look, which was the one that did a bunch of damage we talked about last time?
It was a 7th level spell
Well, yeah, because we
that
were
gave
doing
you the
seventh
bonus
level
action.
spells.
Crown of Stars gives you the
Crown
bonus
of
action
Stars,
to
right,
throw
right.
the little chunks at people, and that is 40-10, I think. But
And
that doesn't hit that doesn't hit a
that
giant
wasn't
area, right?
concentration though.
No, it
This
was
is
not concentration.
this. I mean, still, it's a area of effect, bonus action. It does take concentration, but still, great spell and
Agreed.
plenty good enough to make my list.
Absolutely. If you want to be like the ultimate dragon person, this is a spell that I think probably makes your list. There's also the transformation that turns you into the form of a dragon that gives you bonus action breath weapon that's pretty powerful. It's similar to this. The difference there is that puts yourself as like a gigantic target, whereas whenever you get to make a giant shadow dragon, that's going to be it's going to be harder for you necessarily to get your ass kicked whenever you are the one having to create the breath weapon yourself. So meaningful upside, I think. So yeah, I mean, I don't think this is the most revolutionary bonus action damage spell whenever we're in this tier of play. At the same time, it's doing enough that I'm like, yeah, this is better than most of the other 8th level spells.
Yep.
Next
All
for
right.
you, Bob.
What do I have? Not that. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna save that one for later. Right now I've got Sunburst.
I also have Sunburst.
You do. I'm surprised. I didn't think that one was gonna make your list.
Again, I'm going to level with you. I just don't think the 8th level spells are that powerful.
This is just a giant area of effect. 60-foot radius. That's 120-foot diameter. That's
Yeah, that's enormous.
it's massive. It does respectable damage. And then and I think we talked about this, and you weren't as impressed by the blind condition from this spell as I was.
It's fine. Blinding is fine. It being attached to fireball damage is fine, right? Because this is a slightly larger fireball at about the exact same damage with a blind. That's fine. That's like it's probably worth the slot.
Oh yeah, certainly.
I mean, like you just said, I'm not as impressed with it as you are. I tend to want I like 8th level spells and really high powerful magic stuff that feels like it changes some larger element of the game that I couldn't prior. And I feel like I could have got blinds earlier than this. I feel like I could have done area of effect damage earlier than this. I feel like I could have done everything the spell does with lower level stuff, which is why I'm not really impressed by it. Whereas like the Shadow Dragon at least comes with the fright and comes with the bonus action cone. It's not separated. It's separated to you, so it's like somewhat of a new thing that you're getting. I think Anti-Magic Field is like the most, to me, this is a new tool you have access to. This is a thing you couldn't do earlier with it, which is why I think it justifies its slot over like the 7th level options. Sunburst, to me, you could tell me this is a 7th level spell, and I'd be like, yeah, it's about as good as I would want a 7th level spell to be. You could tell me the 6th level spell, I'd be like, wow, that's a good 6th level spell. But it wouldn't be like cracked or anything. As an 8th level spell, I'm like, it's fine.
This is one I think is a really good one for masses of smaller enemies.
Yeah.
And
it kills a large
bunch
mass
of them, and then the stragglers are injured and blind now.
Yeah.
Easy to pick off.
it's fun that it also like undead news just have disadvantage on the save, so it's
Oh, that too,
really
yeah.
good against zombies. Like regardless of size, you slam this down on some zombies, they're taking like 30 plus damage, and you're really happy with that. And that's pretty good. I honestly really wish like a thing I would love to see is just remove the save at the end of turn. Just make them blind for a minute. I think that'd be sweet. Because the blinding condition isn't that good. Make it just a giant AoE blind saber die. That's I think way more useful. But I mean, where it stands, I can't be that upset with. Like you said, it hits an enormous amount of things. 60-foot radius is gigantic. So
Yeah.
like,
I like the flavor in this one too.
yeah.
Yeah, I can envision this spell happening, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, I agree. You get this glorious, brilliant burst of light, and this I'm envisioning a physical laser coming out of the sun, like that's 120 feet around and just into the planet. That's definitely not practical, but that's what I envision, and that's pretty
I'm just
sweet.
picturing like night suddenly turning to day in an area and things bursting into radiant fire.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Where it's just like all of a sudden everyone's like looking back like this because it's just daytime out all of a sudden, and then it's just night again after everything lights on fire. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got next?
Oh, is it?
Was that mine?
No, that was mine.
Okay.
I chose Sunburst or whatever it's called.
My next one is one that I hate, but it is good. And this is a spell that is powerful, but it is miserable. It's called Feeble Mind.
Really, that made your list.
Feeble Mind is brutal. If Feeble Mind hits something, it can kill it in a way that's worse than death. And that, I think, like I said earlier, I want my 8th level spells to do something that doesn't normally happen, can't really happen with 7th level or lower, and Feeble Mind definitely fits that bill. Feeble Mind is definitely an effect that you can't really get anywhere else. This is a semi-permanent way to debilitate an enemy in a way that is on an entirely different axis. Because like life and death happens in D&D all the time, right? Killing something's int is brutal, right? Like this takes a charismatic leader or boss, and they can't be revived anymore. They have to find a way, either a greater restoration, heal, or wish spell to end this effect. And that's harder to get oftentimes than a lot of the resurrection magic that you'd have readily on hand, right? If you expect death to happen, you don't necessarily expect Feeble Mind to happen. So as players, this can be a really interesting tool to throw a gigantic wrench in your DM's plans. It also can like debilitate a monster once a fight. This is a saber die that if you fail it, the monster, like, it's going to be useless. Most monsters are going to be useless. Sentient monsters with big brains are going to be useless because they're going to go from being like a mind flayer that understands how to do all of its main brain power stuff to a vegetable. And like, that is as good as murder as you can possibly get for an 8th level spell slot. At the same time, I'm going to say this now. If you're a DM, don't cast this on your players. It's a miserable experience. We have a whole video on it that Bob can possibly link in the description of this video.
I remember.
If he remembers. And you can go check out why I hate Feeble Mind so much. If you're a player, though, I think this is a saber die that will give you something new to do, and a saber die that will be genuinely very powerful against things that can't legendary resist it, because if they have legendary resistance, yeah, you're trading an 8th level spell slot for legendary resistance, and you can probably do that cheaper.
I did say in that video, though, that the one useful thing about using this on players is if you know somebody can't make the next session, there. All right, he's feeble-minded.
Yeah, and then you immediately heal him. You go to a temple or something, and it's problem solved. You were just feeble-minded for a session, and you just drag them around by their ankles, and it was fine.
All right, how many is that for you? Is that all
That's
yours?
all 5 of mine.
Oh, that was all yours? Okay, I got one more on my list, and I don't know if what you're gonna think about this one. Antipathy, sympathy.
Antipathy. Yep, I got it. It's okay. I tried it like 3 times and missed every single time. I have read this spell single-digit times. Give me this cliff notes. What does this do?
It either, depending on how you use it, it either attracts or people or repels them. So you make a bunch of people that see whatever you cast it on. They can have to see it or be within a certain range of it, and it either makes people come toward you or whatever you cast this on, or go away from whatever you cast it on.
Okay. And it's creatures of your choice. So you pick a kind of creature and a huge or smaller object or creature. You spend an hour, and then you either get this magnetism effect or this fearsome effect, right? Where they don't want to go near it, right?
Yes.
I think the spell is ridiculously weird. How would you use the spell effectively?
Either way, the thing that it gives me is you can cast it. Your target can be a huge or smaller object, no larger than a 200-foot cube,
Yep.
and the creatures affected by it is anyone, includes anyone who can see it. That is a massive thing to be able to see from a long distance away. So I'm thinking if you just want to bring a bunch of people somewhere, like from miles around, you
Sure.
cast this on the tallest spire of the palace or something. Or if you just want to clear a city, evacuate and go steal everybody's crap. Same thing. You cast it on the tallest spire of the palace towers or whatever, and yeah, everybody's gone for
Sure.
a long time. That's
I
or
think
if you, I don't know, I gotta look at the details again, but if you set a giant fire and you
Mhm.
want to kill a bunch of monsters, put your target in the middle of the fire. Will they
Yeah.
walk into the fire? Is that how it works?
For sympathy,
Right.
makes a wisdom save or moves towards it, uh, regardless of if there's fire in the way. So yes, it will move through fire.
Yeah. So I think this
Um,
one's hugely powerful depending on how you use it.
I will say a very important note is you
Mhm.
do have to specify a kind of creature, and that kind of intelligent creature, such as a red dragon, goblin, or vampire, like you have to pick very specifically. I want goblins to be affected by this. I want
Right.
humans to be affected by this. I want elves to be affected by this.
Yeah.
In those windows, though, I think I didn't really consider anything that can see it. Putting this on a really high point makes it very good. So like, let's say you're at war with a bunch of orcs. The typical elves versus orc Lord of the Rings kind of
Right.
fight. You can stick this, like you just said, on a really tall bell tower. You go up to the tippiest top of the mountain, put it on a gong. As long as they can see it, you can frighten all of the orcs in our gigantic area and create like this no save, near impossible barrier that they really can't get through. Oh, never mind. They do get to save. They do get a save, and if they save, nothing bad happens. But still, this is potentially afflicting a large amount of monsters. This
That's yeah.
feels
You know, you know, taking out a huge chunk of the army that's coming toward you.
yeah. At the very least, like stopping them in their tracks, right? Making them
Mm.
regroup, figure out how to manage this. Maybe it's with blindfolds or whatever, because they can deny themselves sight to get rid of the effect. At the
Yeah.
same time, like this is going to be a gigantic pain in the ass. This to me feels like a spell that will have very niche windows of use. Like that to me, dealing with a gigantic army with an 8th level spell like this is interesting. I think you have to bend over backwards to make this applicable at any other table. Like I think any table that is trying to do bigger upper tier stuff, the logistics of this seem like a lot of hoops to jump through to get an effect that is a giant AoE fear or a giant AoE charm ish effect. I don't know. I wouldn't think this is very good, but your single use case that you just came up with that put it on your list does make it kind of interesting. And maybe it's an enough effect that like there could be some really powerful things to do with it. I don't know. I guess it's gonna
Yeah, this
vary
one
wildly table to table, but
depends heavily on your imagination and what you do with it. But
yeah, I
that's the
think
first thing
that's
that
fair.
came to my mind.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh,
sure. It seems neat, and I'm all for neat spells. I would probably try this spell out sometime if I was in like a really big upper tier game and you know
yeah.
didn't want any of the aforementioned spells. It's not bad by any stretch. I just don't know if it's good. I can't tell.
All right. Well, that was our top fives. What do you got for your worst?
My worst, mind blank.
Mind blank. That's I think I say this every time. I forgot that existed.
Yup. You touch somebody for 24 hours, they're immune to psychic damage, and any effects that would sense their emotions, read their thoughts, divination spells, and the charm condition. It even foils wishes to try and divine your
Oh,
location. No,
yeah, that's nobody's using that.
no one's using this. This is an 8th level spell that does nothing. It's an 8th level spell. You go, we're going to go up against mind flayers. Great, you're immune to the mind flayer, and then you move on with that, and then it still bites your head off, and you're like, well, I thought I was immune to the mind flayer, and you go, no, it still has teeth. And it's just this is the most niche silver bullet of all the 8th level spells. And the 8th level spells already feel like very, very in a single lane to me for the most part, outside of a specifically dominate monster, which is just anything that's mine now. With like with Mind Blank, you're just like, I guess if we're against specifically the evil mastermind diviner, which I've already expressed in other videos, not a game I want to be playing in really. It's just a gigantic headache. This is just, it's not worth it. It's your 8th level spell slot for an effect that doesn't do anything. Like at the vast majority of tables, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, if this is going to work, it it's going to dramatically alter the game you're playing, or
Well,
in it if you don't use it, if you're supposed to use it and don't, then I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
yes, if this is something that your DM knows you're getting and forces you to use, it feels like you're just losing an 8th level spell slot for nothing.
Right, okay.
And that feels like utter shit.
Yeah.
Like that's not a good time. What also hurts, like, I think non-detection was my worst 2nd level spell that I talked about. And non-detection does most of what this does. Oh, sorry, I did Arcanist Magic Aura, which does a similar thing to non-detection. Non-detection is a 3rd level spell. That was one of my 3rd level worst spells. It does a similar thing to most of the text here of saying you can't be divine, you can't be scryed on by those kinds of means, but they can still scry on your buddies. They can still scry on the other members of your party. This doesn't create like a bubble that like things within 60 feet of you can't be discerned or scryed on or whatever. So there's still really obnoxious workarounds to this that even if you wanted it, a really like savvy villain hypothetically would just go, I can't target this thing. Why can't I target this thing? I'm gonna target the thing I knew it was near whenever they were adventuring with me, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, well I can scry on everything else around them. I guess that patchy black foggy spot must be the wizard,
Yes.
right? I don't see this having any value. What's your worst?
Mine was Maze.
Maze
it's not a bad. I mean, not unpowerful, but boring. I cannot forgive it for not living up to what I think a spell called Maze should do.
Yeah,
I mean, effectively, this is just banishment. That doesn't work on Minotaurs.
Yeah, it's a banishment that doesn't work on Minotaurs and gets around legendary resistance, which makes it often just feel like an irresistible dance. This, I think, is very comparable to irresistible dance, and irresistible dance is way lower level than this.
Yeah.
Maze isn't particularly exciting. I don't.
No, and I want it to be. I want that to be like a little mini adventure you have to go on. But it's not. It's just
a little mini adventure the monster has to go on.
Sure. But it's not.
It feels
it's just he's in a maze, I guess, or he's just not here.
I mean, like on one hand, like I get that it's really hard to give the players a tool to create a giant extra dimensional demi-plane that's a maze that you stick a monster in, and then has to spend 3 hours getting out of. At the same time, for an 8th level spell slot, maybe it's just like you gate the creature size because like you can't get big creatures to fit in the smaller mazes or whatever, and then you just say it goes in an extra plane of existence for 3 hours. That would make it at least feel more like they're navigating a maze or something, like they have to work their way through it. This just feels like they make 2 turns and they're out, and I'm like, that's not a maze. That's just like
that maze sucked.
Yeah, it's worse than a corn maze, right? Like that's just like a series of 2. Do you make 2 lefts or 2 rights? That's what it ends up feeling like to get out of it. That's not great. There'll be some creatures that can't make a DC 20 in check, but that's not most creatures. Most creatures will do this in less than 20 tries. Most creatures will do this in less than 10 tries. Like, no, it smells garbage. Well, right. It's not garbage. It's fine. No. It's just not use. It's not better than the other versions that exist, and fails on being the cool fantasy that you want it to be. And I 100% agree with that.
This is not by any means the worst 8th level spell. You might be just what's the word? Objectively correct with your pick, but this is the one that lets me down the most, and that's why it got the spot for my list.
Now, I haven't done any honorary picks, and I feel like I'd be amiss if I didn't, because it's what I do. I break the rules. What can I say? Mighty Fortress is also really terrible, for what that's worth. Mighty Fortress is like Magnificent Mansion, but worse.
But so it can also be made permanent. So
I'm sorry. This is the Wall of Stone fantasy, the Bob ones. He wants to build his little palace out of the Mighty Fortress. Can't believe he didn't make your top 5, to be honest.
No. Go ahead though, talk about it, because there's a reason it didn't. It's outside of the potential permanence. That's one of those you have to cast in the same place for a year, right?
Yeah, cast in the same spot every 7 days for a year to make it permanent. It costs you 500 gold every time you do it, so like that gets expensive. I don't know if it's that much more expensive than building it yourself. In any case, like you're getting a big old palace, but you could already get that at a lower level slot. And Magnificent Mansion isn't anything I'm writing home about, and that's like extra planar. Like you can't get invaded there. This just gives you a building that you can already go and find a different existing building. Like you don't need to construct your own building. There's no real giant upside to have an 8th level spell that is a building. Now, granted, a building is better than nothing, and Maze and Mind Blank is nothing. So, like, okay, this is a little bit better than nothing. This is a little bit better than immunity to psychic damage, but it's not like this spell's still awful. If you're going against a lot of Mind Flayers, this will serve you less than Mind Blank will. So that's that's its only use case, I would guess. Otherwise, I don't see any reason to ever cast this. Just build your own. Have a bunch of knaves. You got piles of Scrooge McDuck money, right? Just build your own fortress, make a better yet, just buy the dukes. Find some like lavish wealthy estate and be like, yeah, we got more money than you, we're buying this place. Do that instead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna depend, like you said, on how much more it would cost to build it yourself. Because I could see me being cheap, I would yeah, if the math worked out right, I would go there every week, cast this spell 52 times, and
then you miss one day, you miss 1 week, and it's all over. You just start the whole process over again.
Oh, that would hurt.
That would be awful, yeah. I mean, it was 52 weeks in a year. That puts us at 52 times 500, gives us the grand old total of 26 grand. This is 26 grand for a castle. Is that a good deal?
That seems like a good deal.
Seems like a good deal to me.
You could turn around and sell it, flip it.
Yep. Bob's actually on a reality TV show, Flip That Mansion. It's just a bunch of really powerful 8th level wizards making some cities out of stone walls and creating giant magnificent mansions. Be like, we built this for 26,000, and we've been able to flip it to that one Null Duke for $500,000. 100% increase. Yeah, that's not what you're doing.
All right, that's well, that was our top 5 level 8 wizard spells. We got one more. Tune in next week for the big level 9 when we get to the cream of the crop, and of course go back and watch levels, the cantrips and levels 1 through 7 as well. But yeah,
also leave your own lists in the comments
below.
Right.
Always.
Like I said, this is one that we're a little bit out of our depth here. We're talking about like hypotheticals more than most other levels that we talk about. So I'd be interested in your experiences, how you played with these, how you felt they've done, what ones were like, you're way overvaluing that, or that's utter trash, or that's actually bonkers. Hit us up. Let us know.
Yeah. Your opinions on our picks and your own picks. We'd love to read them. All right. Until next time, we will see you later. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.